This is a great question that I'm about to talk about. How did Jeshua communicate with people who did not speak Aramaic? It's a great question, and it's one that I have no memory of, but I have a real theory about. I think that we, as in the modern cultures, have lost a skill, a skill that you can still witness when you travel the world. Though, when you go as a tourist to Egypt, and you're walking through the streets of Cairo or through any Egyptian town, you hear the little street vendors calling out in French and German and English and Dutch. I mean, they're yelling out things in different languages like crazy. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch the attention of someone from those countries. And then when they go over to them, they literally speak to them in their language. Now, these are street kids with no education. These are street kids who are literally just out there selling their wares, selling what they get, the stuff, the tourist trinkets and stuff. These are kids who have not studied in school. These are kids who have literally gone out and learned to speak languages out of necessity. Learn to speak to other people through concepts. Now, the interesting thing about concepts is that, I've been to 30 countries around the world, and I only speak English, but I've been able to communicate in every country I've ever been to. I've been able to communicate with other people just because we all process the same way. I remember being in Germany, and I was traveling with a person who was the absolute ugly American. If you didn't speak English, he would, number one, talk louder, and number two, he would just dismiss you as if you were stupid. And people who don't speak your language can definitely read your body language, and they can read your tone of voice. And I remember being in a restaurant, and he was trying to talk to a woman about getting some food, and she didn't understand what he was saying. And she and I had an entire conversation over his shoulder about what a jerk he was without saying a word, right? Now, how does all this apply to Jeshua? Much like those kids that I talked about in Egypt, Jeshua traveled all over the place. He constantly was talking to everyone and finding common language between. Now, I remember when I was traveling to Italy, I was traveling with my then wife, who spoke Spanish and French, right? She spoke Spanish and French. When she got to Italy, she could speak Italian, because Italian is a mix of Spanish and French. And so she was able to pick up words, and once she started picking up the words, she instantly had the language very quickly. So how is Jeshua able to talk to people who didn't speak Aramaic? He spoke to them in their language. Much like those kids in the streets who spoke to lots of different people, he picked up their language, right? And then, of course, there were people there who understood both languages, and there were people there who knew how to converse in a certain way and understood certain gestures and comments. And so Jeshua taught by example, probably more so than by language skills. He taught more so by demonstrating and gesturing, but he still understood a lot more of the language than we in the modern day age would, because he's in the streets with the people who speak those other languages all the time. And much like those little kids in the streets of Egypt, he picked up the languages, as we all did at the time. You understood certain things, certain words. When you're trying to teach somebody else a different language, you hold up an apple and you say apple, and then you ask them what it is, and they say what their word for it is, and you figure out the common word, right? And so you work that way through. Jeshua and all of the disciples and all of the followers, and they all literally lived in the streets and came upon people who didn't speak their language occasionally, but most of the languages were intermixed more so than being a solid language on its own. Aramaic, you in that same region, you had multiple languages, but in those multiple languages, it would be like Northern American and Southern American. But they use different lingo in the South, different language in the South, but we understand each other. That's a very simplistic version of it. But those kids in Egypt have it actually harder than Jeshua did in back in the day, because more languages from further away have come to Egypt, and they converse in those languages to those people in the street. So that's my thought on that language. Now, this is from me, John Davis, not from some past life memory. This is my own take on this. I think that we have lost a lot of our natural language skills in the modern age, whereas in the past it was much easier to understand each other. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.